Imagine you're 65 years old, your knees hurt, your eyesight is fading, you can no longer run after animals for miles, you can no longer fight like you once did. Today, that's inconvenient, but 30,000 years ago, it could be a death sentence, or at least that's what most people think. After all, ancient humans lived in a brutal world. No hospitals, no medicine, no retirement, no nursing homes. So what actually happened? When an ancient human got old, were they abandoned, left behind, or did they somehow survive? The answer completely changed. How scientists think about human evolution. Let's start with a myth. You've probably heard that ancient humans rarely lived past 30. Technically, that's true, but it's also incredibly misleading. When researchers calculate life expectancy for ancient populations, infant mortality heavily affects the average. Many children died young. This dragged the average down dramatically. But if an ancient human survived childhood, they could live much longer. Archaeologists have discovered numerous skeletons belonging to individuals who reached their 50s, 60s, and sometimes even beyond. In other words, old people existed, and they existed far more often than most people imagine. But this creates a mystery. How? Because aging creates problems. A hunter who once chased animals across open land eventually becomes slower. Muscles weaken, reaction time drops, teeth wear down, bones become fragile. For most animals, this is where life becomes very difficult. A wolf that can no longer hunt usually dies. A lion that can no longer catch prey often starves. Nature is not kind to old age. Humans, however, appear to have done something unusual. We started helping old people survive, and the evidence is buried in ancient bones. One of the most famous discoveries comes from a site in Iraq called Shanidar Cave. There, scientists found the remains of a Neanderthal who had suffered extraordinary injuries. His arm was badly damaged. He likely had impaired vision. His body showed signs of serious disabilities. Yet he lived for years after those injuries occurred. Think about that. This individual could not have survived alone. Someone had to help him. Someone had to share food. Someone had to protect him. Someone had to care. This discovery shocked researchers because it suggested something profound. Ancient humans and Neanderthals weren't simply surviving. They were supporting vulnerable members of their group. And Shanidar isn't the only example. Again and again, archaeologists have found skeletons showing severe injuries, disabilities, and old age. People who should not have survived if they were completely alone. Yet somehow they did, which suggests that cooperation may have been one of humanity's greatest survival tools. But here's where things become even more interesting. Old humans weren't just being helped. They were useful, very useful. Imagine a young hunter preparing for a dangerous hunt. Who knows where animals migrate? Who remembers which plants are poisonous? Who knows where water can still be found during a drought? Usually not the youngest members, usually the oldest. Researchers studying hunter-gatherer societies have repeatedly found that older individuals often become walking libraries of survival knowledge. They remember decades of information, weather patterns, animal behavior, seasonal changes, dangerous locations. In a world without books, old people were the books, and losing them meant losing knowledge that could take decades to replace. Scientists even have a name for one theory explaining this phenomenon. It's called the grandmother hypothesis. The idea emerged after researchers noticed something unusual about humans. Most animals reproduce until near the end of their lives. Human women don't. Women often live decades after menopause. From a purely biological perspective, this seems strange. Why would evolution keep someone alive long after they stop having children? One possible answer: grandmothers. Studies among traditional societies have shown that grandmothers often help feed, protect, and raise grandchildren. Their support increases the chances that children survive, and when more children survive, more genes get passed on. In other words, grandparents may have helped shape human evolution itself, but old age wasn't always respected. Sometimes it was dangerous, extremely dangerous. Food shortages could push tribes to the edge of survival. During famines, every extra mouth mattered. Anthropologists have documented rare cases in some historical societies where elderly individuals were abandoned during extreme crises. These stories are disturbing, but they reveal an uncomfortable truth. Ancient humans constantly balanced compassion against survival, and sometimes survival won. Yet despite these rare examples, the overall archaeological evidence points in another direction: care, support, cooperation. Again and again, researchers find proof that ancient humans invested resources into people who could no longer contribute physically at the same level. And this may be one of the biggest reasons humans became successful. Think about it. Most animals pass information through instinct. Humans pass information through teaching. Every generation learns from the one before it. The more elders survive, the more knowledge survives. The more knowledge survives, the smarter the next generation becomes. Some scientists believe this created a powerful feedback loop. Old people shared knowledge. Young people learned faster. Human societies became more effective. Technology improved, culture expanded, and eventually humans spread across the entire planet, which means the story of old age isn't really about weakness. It's about something much bigger. Because when a hunter became too old to run, he could still teach. When a grandmother became too old to travel, she could still guide. When strength faded, knowledge remained. And that knowledge may have been one of the most valuable resources ancient humans ever possessed. So what happened when ancient humans got old? Some struggled, some suffered, some were vulnerable, but many survived. Not because they were the strongest members of the tribe, but because humans discovered something that changed our species forever. Sometimes the people who can no longer hunt are still the people worth listening to.